This video is brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. The NBA season is in full swing, and you can get into the action at DraftKings. Check out DraftKings parlays and same-game parlays, where you can combine multiple bets from the same game for a shot at an even bigger payout. So download the DraftKings app now. You can use promo code BULLYBALL when you sign up. All one word, B-U-L-L-Y, ball. You can do it. I know you can do it. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Welcome to Bully Ball, presented by DraftKings. I'm Rachel Nichols. That's DeMarcus Cousins. And Boogie, we got some breaking news from you, including we need to know what a beer leopard is. Can you please share with us what you'll be doing next month?
Yeah. I'll be taking my talents to Taiwan. I'll be playing with the Taiwan Beer Leopards. To exactly answer your question on what a beer leopard is, I'm still, in the process of researching and finding out exactly what that is. But when I find out, I'll let you know. But besides
that is completely fair.
Yeah, but I'm excited to be playing ball. I love this game. I still got a lot left in the tank. So this is just to, help that urge a little bit and keep my competitive juices flowing. So I'm excited for the opportunity, and I can't wait to get out there.
I love that. I mean, every time we put this podcast out and we tweet about it or put it on Instagram, all the comments are, why isn't Boogie playing? Why isn't Boogie playing? My team needs him. This team needs him. That team needs him. So it's exciting that we get to see you play a little bit more. And I know NBA teams will be watching that too. So this is going to be fun, my friend. And we all now need, on this pod, we need Beer Leopards gear. So that will be your assignment when you come back from there, is to bring some for the Bully Ball fam.
I got you.
All right. I appreciate that. All right. We got to get back to the big star returning to the NBA. just Beer Leopard. I'm still on Beer Leopard, okay? Returning to the NBA, Ja Morant is back on Tuesday night. This is after serving, of course, the 25-game suspension. It will be Ja versus Zion, which will be a little blockbuster for you on his way back. And Morant spoke to the media for the first time on Friday. He said, kind of like what you were just saying, Boogie, that basketball it's always been there for him. It's been his therapy, that it's part of his life, and that taking that away was really hard for him. It made his time more difficult. He also said that he knows that the words he says about taking responsibility are just words, and that no one's going to believe him until he proves it with his actions. And this part I thought was really the most interesting. He said that he felt guilty for the position the Grizzlies were in, where, of course, they are out of the playoff chase right now. They had such a great start to the season last year, and it's basically completely the opposite this year. And frankly, that's for more reasons than Ja Morant being out. But obviously, he is the biggest cog in that wheel, and he has not been there for them. So I'm just interested. I was watching him talk, and I was kind of wondering what's actually going on inside his head. Do you have a sense? Can you take us inside the head of an NBA star who the whole world is criticizing their behavior, and he is in this position where he's got to prove it? What is that like?
It's a tough situation, and it's super heavy on an individual. And the reason I can say that is nobody in his life is exempt from growing pains. And Ja Morant is just another person going through his growing pains. The difference is his life is a fishbowl, whereas everybody looking in at this one fish. You know what I mean? So through his growing pains, he gets criticized with every single step that he does wrong or right. And I mean, for the most part, any kid growing up, when their parent talks to them too much or fusses at them too much, it becomes stressful. So imagine 3 million people on an everyday basis, criticizing you, talking down on you, all of those things. So you have to realize at the end of the day, this is a young kid that's a human being. He bleeds and sleeps the same way everybody else does. So, I believe he deserves the grace that the next individual gets when it comes to growing pains or making mistakes. So he's a kid that's growing up. He's figuring life out. He made some mistakes. He's admitted to those mistakes. Now it's time to give him an opportunity to better those mistakes. I think through this 25-game suspension, he's been humbled. He's realized what's important to him. He's been able to prioritize the important things in his life. And it's also going to help him become a better man, a better father, and a better professional. So I think everything that's transpired is going to help in a positive way. I appreciate the comments and him being able to say, I felt like the the team is in this position because of me. That's a sign of accountability. That's a sign of a leader.
Yeah.
That's a sign of a guy that's realized I've messed up and I've let my guys down, and because of that, they're in a bad position. So I think he comes out first game with a lot of fire. I think him returning to the team is the perfect spark for this team to help them go on a run, to put them back in position to turn the season around. So
Yeah.
they're only 5 games out. They have a great chance of making a play-in, and I mean, if I'm first, second seed, and I have to see this team first round, I'm scared. This is a team that can beat any team on a nightly basis when they're healthy, and especially when a top 10 player is now back, with his team. So, and he is a top 10 player. Let's not deny that. Let's not let a silly mistake say otherwise. You know what I mean? He's that dynamic. He's that electric, and we've seen it time and time again. What happens when Ja Morant is on this Grizzlies team? They're one of the most fun teams to watch, and they're a very, very tough team to beat. So, I hope things work out in this kid's favor. I'm a huge fan of him. I'm a huge fan of his talent. And, I can see through the mistakes. You know what I mean? I know what it's like to, fuck up as a young kid. I can see through all that. I can see this is a good kid with a good heart. He just made some silly mistakes. And that's exactly what it should be labeled, a silly mistake. So let's move on. And I'm excited for his return. Get back on the floor and show the world the star that you are, kid.
I do think people have kind of forgotten how good he is. I think we're going to see that over the next month. We talked last week, the odds in Vegas are not very high that they make the playoffs. And I'm like, just has to make the play-in. And to your point, they're going to be a very different team than a typical 9 or 10 seed because of all the time Ja's missed. By the time they get to the spring, they're going to be a higher caliber team in the 9 or 10 seeds clothing, like a wolf in sheep's clothing. So they will be a threat if they get there to make the playoffs and then in the first round. How hard is it, do you think, is going to be for him to actually come back on the court Tuesday night? Do you think we're going to see him at full speed? Do you think I always feel like conditioning, you can always practice as much as you want, but guys, you see them get winded in a real game when they come back. He's been practicing with the team. They just won't let him in the arena during games. So what do you think we'll see actually out on the court when he's playing against Zion and the Pelicans?
I think you see a big game from him. Like you said, he's been able to practice with the team. I'm sure they're putting him through rigorous training to, keep his conditioning in top shape, to, come in and flow with the team right away. And on top of this is a young kid. This isn't some veteran that missed time. Like when you're this age, you can literally roll out of bed and go do what you want. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And it's not like
Eat McDonald's,
he's been missing time because of injury. Yeah. And it's not like he's coming back from an injury. I think he'll come in and we'll see the same star that we saw last season and the season before that. Like I said, he's that electric. I think he's going to come in and make an impact from game one, and we'll see a different team when he returns. So I don't think it'll be an issue at all.
I think I predict he'll be a little winded some of the time that you'll see that. But I think we're going to get a really big dunk to remind everybody who he is. And I'm excited for that. So we'll see. While we're on the subject of guys who have been under the microscope and need to change their behavior, Shams from The Athletic reported earlier today that Draymond Green has started the counseling process. He's expected to remain sidelined via suspension for at least the next 3 weeks, according to Shams' sources. So he's already missed 11 games out of the Warriors' 26 games this season because of various suspensions and other things. If he is out for 3 weeks, like this report says, that would be another 10 games missed. So obviously he needs to come back from this suspension a different guy because he cannot afford to keep doing this to his team, kind of like Ja Morant said. And I'm just curious how Draymond makes a substantive change beyond just sort of, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, because that hasn't been working, to just say to himself even, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I think it's interesting that Draymond has always said that, and Steve Kerr and Steph Curry have said that Dray needs to play with a level of emotion to be Draymond out there, and that he has to walk that line. And clearly that line has just moved too much toward being unacceptable. And he's got to figure out how to be himself as a player, but move that line back. You played with Draymond Green. You guys were teammates on that Warriors team. How does he do this? How does he actually make a real change?
I think that's a question and answer for Draymond Green himself. And I think he'll find that answer, through self-reflection, through this time or this process that he's going through with being away from the team and being sidelined. I hope he finds that answer because, Draymond is a close friend of mine. I'm a huge Draymond fan. And I've been on the ends of that team and understand the dynamic and the way that puzzle works with Draymond being in that puzzle. And without that puzzle piece, it just doesn't work, regardless of, what you want to do. I think they understand it. I think, their superstar and Steph Curry understands that, and that's the reason he supports him the way he does. But, I hope Draymond finds that answer. And it just sucks because we know who Draymond is as a player. He's passionate. He's fiery. He's all of these things that, you don't really see, and that's what makes Draymond so special. I hate the fact that passion and fire turns into a negative, or it's now being spent into a negative. But for some reason, when they were winning and they were successful, it was enabled by the league. It was okay then. Now that they're they're slowing up and, other teams are catching up, now it's being spent into, now he needs counseling and help and all that. That's the part I don't agree with, and that's the part that I don't think is okay. Don't turn this passionate player into the angry black man. That's bullshit, and I don't agree with it. I don't want that narrative to be, spent that way. So if, me speaking on it can help in any way, then that's what I'm going to do. But let's not try to change this guy's character or label him as something that he's not, because this is a highly intelligent black man and he should be, respected as such. Has he fucked up? Absolutely. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
I totally get that. And it is about moving the line, right? Like, he's always going to play with passion. He's always going to play on that line. He just has to move that line back. And I think the difference now between before, at least in part, is that it's cumulative, right? Like, it hasn't just happened once or twice or 3 times. And the fact that this one happened 2 weeks after the last one, where he was suspended 5 games, came back, said all the right things, and said that he knew he let the team down by not being there, and said it was going to be different. And then boom, 2 weeks later, this happens. That's what I think led to the suspension and the indefinite suspension, and everyone
Absolutely.
taking it kind of more to heart. But I agree with you with the narrative is really spun out of control. And,
Right.
He didn't injure anyone else. He didn't, all that stuff. And yes, it could have been, this could have been bad, this could have been, but it wasn't. And I agree with you that it's so black and white in our society about he's either a terrible person or a brilliant person, and there's no apparently overlap.
Right.
It's troubling, and it's not fair. And you and I know Dre really well, and he cares so deeply about the game and his team, and is so smart and carries himself so well, off the court. That to me, this is a tweak more than he's got to change his whole character. But he does have to make the tweak because it's cumulative. It can't keep happening.
And you can now see that, they're not okay with it. So you have to adjust accordingly, which is okay. And I think Draymond will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hope he's back even sooner than 3 weeks. We'll find out. The league is more fun with Draymond in it. That's my opinion. All right, let's talk about the Sixers. They are on a roll. I mean, they've been playing lights out. They are currently 3rd in the East, but this may be one of the crazier stats I have read this season. Joel Embiid, Boogie, has more points than minutes played. His points are 752. His minutes played are 746. And here's another one. The last 4 games that the Sixers have played, he hasn't even played in the fourth quarter of any of those games because they've been winning by so much.
Wow.
And he hasn't played in the fourth quarter of 8 games this season. It's just bonkers. More points than minutes played is crazy. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the only person to have ever done that, which puts you in high standing. He is 34, 12, and 6 on the year. That's a career high in assists. And we can add in 2 blocks per game as well. So look, following the James Harden deal, a lot of people thought Philly would need to add another piece to get back into contention. People kind of thought Joel deserved the MVP last year, but then Jokic came along after that in the playoffs and, won the championship ring. He was the finals MVP. So it kind of flipped back to the narrative of he was better than Embiid. what do you think as a big man of what Joel is doing this year, and how important should we look at these stats and think of what we think of him, and especially compared to Jokic, frankly, because that's the competition right now, and Giannis, but the
Right.
comparisons are mostly with Jokic at the moment.
Oh, well, I'm gonna just start this off by saying I think he's the front runner for another MVP. He's showing
Hmm.
how dominant he can be when he's healthy and on a consistent level. I think he's found his rhythm. I think he's figured out the secret sauce. All of these things. Um, he's had a injury history. He's past that part. It was
Yeah.
they talked about his conditioning. He's past that part. He's
Hmm.
figured out every knack that they tried to put against him, and he's found a way to turn it around and completely dominate. Credit to him. He's leading that team. Even though the team made a huge move with getting rid of James Harden and bringing in other guys, he found a way, and more credit to him. I think he's top 5 player in the NBA. Um, He'll continue to dominate. He'll continue to lead this team. My only worry is once they get to the playoffs and teams start to adjust, I do still think they need that extra piece to,
Right.
that second or third option to help get them over the hump, playoff wise. But I'm happy for the big fella. He's showing and he's trying to separate himself in this league, and he's doing that. And in my opinion, he's front runner for another MVP.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely going to make a move before the deadline to get to your playoff point. They have a ton
Hmm.
of assets now because of the James Harden deal, so they can actually really go out and get someone. The question is someone going to be available that would really help them? What do you think? Tyrese Maxey has stepped in for James Harden and been lights out, so they don't have a glaring need at point guard, right? What else do you think they would need to take that pressure off Embiid and let him really shine in the postseason?
I just think they need a dynamic wing scorer. Can give you both ends, give you about 18 to 20 a game, and I think that puts them at a balanced team, and it can get them over the hump in any situation that they, may run into during the playoffs. Joel is going to be Joel, but I do know in the playoffs he'll see a lot of double, triple teams. It'll be a lot of schemes to, make him become a playmaker instead of a scorer, or, or just get the ball out of his hands, as soon as he, receives it. So you got to have those options on the wings to, counter that.
Yeah.
But with that being said, who's the right player? I mean, a Zach LaVine can come into mind. I think he fits that mold for that team. But
But they need someone who plays strong defense. I mean, you're not going to survive through the Eastern Conference playoffs and the Eastern Conference finals if one of your guys in your starting five doesn't really defend. And look,
I
I,
agree
I
with
think
that.
I like Zach LaVine as a player.
Hmm.
I think if he gets in a different environment, I think we're going to see a different player. I'm not sure how much effort either one of us would put on defense if we were playing on that Chicago Bulls team after all these years. I mean, that kid has been through a lot. Like,
Right.
I don't even know offhand how many coaches. I mean, the environment there has sucked. I mean, it's been bad. So I get it. I wouldn't come out, killing myself on defense every night either. But that would have to be the condition to acquire him. To me, I would have to sit down and talk to him and his agent and just be like, dude, we need max effort from you every night on the other end of the floor, because I think that's what they need. But yeah, I mean, I think that they have the room to do that. They have the assets to outbid anyone, for pretty much anyone except Oklahoma City, for anyone they want. So I'm curious to see what they add there, and we shouldn't sleep on what they already added, because Pat Bev, Nick
Hmm.
Batum, like Batum was not, he is a really chill, steadying
Very solid
influence in
piece.
the locker room, right? Like,
Yes.
he's great on the
Hmm.
floor, but he's also great kind of team dynamic wise. I think people don't really get that. And
Hmm.
Pat Bev, man, he's going to hold you accountable, his own teammates. I mean, how
Yes, he
much do you
is.
think that's helped Joel to have a guy like that around, who's, talks a lot, but fires guys up?
Pat Bev does what he does everywhere he goes. Pat Bev's impact is bigger than the amount of points or how many minutes he plays on the floor on a nightly basis. The way he can, motivate these young guys, influence them to, play team basketball. He can influence these guys to run through
Mhm.
a wall for him. You know what I mean? And that's a
Yeah.
talent within itself. So, Pat Bev does it everywhere he goes, and that's the reason that, I believe, or part of the reason this Sixers team brought him in. He's a great veteran voice in every locker room. He's respected, and he's there to, hold every superstar accountable. I watched him do it night in and night out with the Clippers with Kawhi and PG. So, Either you're gonna respect it or check it. And obviously, Embiid is respecting it and it's showing on a positive note every night. So credit to Pat Bev for, help leading the team and doing all the hard work and detailed work behind the scenes because it's playing in their favor.
I mean, he's one of those guys, he's in that group that, nobody likes playing him and everybody wants him on their team, that kind of guy. And I think he's an important piece. I think the pieces that they added this year have been a big deal. And Tyrese Maxey's ascension, of course, and he's just a great person. He's
Absolutely.
happy. He's positive. Tyrese is he's a lot
Yes.
of fun to play with. His game and just his attitude. So I think the whole vibe around that team has been so good, and Joel has been crazy good. And I agree with you.
Yes.
He's got a stake in the MVP conversation for sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really interesting with him and Jokic. I mean, who do you, as just overall as a player, are you a team Embiid or team Jokic? Who would you put rank one or two?
I'm team big man, honestly. I hate where they're trying to push the big man out of the game. So either one of these guys dominating, also including Giannis, like any of these guys dominating and making it tough on the interior, it only helps the big man moving forward. So I'm a fan of all. Don't get that part
Yeah.
wrong. But when it comes to this saying, who's better, Jokic or Embiid, you can't really say who's better because they play two different games. You know what I mean? One's a more all-around player, the other one's more of a two-way guy. So, you know, um, and when it comes to picking one, it's really about your preference. What are you looking for with, building a team in? For me personally, I would go with Embiid. I feel like Embiid is easier to build around. I feel like you
Hmm.
put another superstar wing guard with Embiid, you automatically create balance. When it comes to Jokic, that may not be the case because Jokic is more of a guy that facilitates the offense. He is that point guard, so it's a
Right.
little more difficult to build a team around that. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, he's not the defensive anchor that Joel Embiid is. So you then have to figure out a situation to also correct that with building the team. So for me, I would lean towards Embiid just in the simple fact that it's easier to put the right pieces around him compared to Jokic, where you almost have to put the perfect team around him to be successful, and that's a little more difficult than with Embiid. So it's all about preference. They're both incredible and great in their own right. So it really is no wrong answer. It's really just about preference.
Yeah. And by the way, Giannis is absolutely in that same conversation, but because of the MVP stuff last year,
Absolutely.
Jokic and Embiid have been more
I
kind
want
of
to ask
pitted
you,
against
Rachel.
each other.
I want to ask you, Rachel, who would you go with?
It's so hard. I had a vote for the MVP last year. I voted for Embiid. I thought he 100% deserved it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think it was even as close as it was portrayed to be because I thought Jokic kind of, that whole Denver team, basically the last month of the season, was not going full speed. And it is a full season award. So to me, I wanted the guy who put together the full season. Um, I kind of agree with you just in that like they play so differently. It's a little bit hard to compare them. I think what Jokic does is such a like different skill set than we've seen, and just the way he passes and sort of all of that. So I appreciate that. But I also appreciate just sort of the way Embiid overpowers a game in that more traditional big man style. And of course, he can shoot threes and do all the other stuff, but he has that freight train part of him that I love to watch. And I don't know. The three finalists for MVP being all big men was so interesting to me because it was such a guard heavy conversation league, ever since Steph Curry came in.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have so many guards. When I fill out my all star ballot every year, the guards are the spots that it's hard to figure out who goes where. When I fill out
Mm-hmm.
all NBA every year, it's very hard to figure out, kind of who goes where because we have so many great guards. But the top three guys, all big men. So I just think that's
Always a big.
fascinating in terms of the direction the league is going. Big men are fighting
Right.
back. They're not letting them take away
Right.
the NBA from them. So there we go. What I like about
Right.
this deal for the Sixers Clippers deal is that it's kind of working out for both sides, and I love trades like that. And when Harden first got to the Clippers, I know it didn't go well, but I said many times on this podcast and when I made my gig on Fox Sports, I was like, this was a good trade. Like, even if it doesn't do everything it's supposed to do, it was a good trade because they were stuck and they needed to get unstuck. And the truth is, that
Right.
once they sort of figured out a system, and that system really involved Russ coming off the bench instead of being a starter.
Hmm.
They are 12-3 since that decision was made, and they are currently on a 7-game winning streak. And it's been a little
Right.
quiet, because there's been so much stuff going on in the league, and the in-season tournament was in the middle of that and everything. But they are a force to be reckoned with. Kawhi Leonard has played every single game. He is healthy. Paul George has played 24 out of 25 games. He is healthy. I mean, what do you see when you watch this Clippers team, and what do you credit to this big turnaround?
What do I see? I see a team that's right now flowing under the radar, which is a good thing in their favor.
I think so.
We've both spoke on it. It's going to take time for this team to figure it out with, it being four potential Hall of Famers on one team. It's only one basketball. They're all at a point in their career where they're still in their prime, but they're also, you know, this is the part of their career where the decline starts to happen. You know what I mean? And this is an important time in their career. It's about winning. It's about, solidifying their careers with, championship rings. And they're all in that position now, and they're all bought in. And it's obvious. They're on a
Right.
7-game winning streak right now. So,
Yeah.
if I'm this Clippers team, I want to continue to fly under the radar. I don't want the media coverage. I don't want the attention.
Right.
Because that can become draining. When it's just constant coverage
Yeah.
about every mistake or every positive you make, those plays become pressured with every possession, and it's a lot. It can become draining, mentally draining, and by the time the playoffs come, you're mentally drained from the entire regular season. So I think this plays in their favor. If I'm that team, I want to stay under the radar and just continue to build that confidence, build that chemistry, and release the monster once the playoffs comes. But when it comes to crediting how making all these things work. Well, one, it's a group effort. It has to be everybody bought in. But the person that I don't believe gets enough credit is Ty Lue. Ty Lue gets so much.
100%.
He gets so much heat year in and year out for the changes made with this team, or the load management and just the different things that continue to circulate around his team. And he stays afloat through every storm, and you got to appreciate that in the coach. And it's also a talent to be able to manage these egos. That's not an easy thing to do. I think that's something that gets overlooked when it comes to coaching. It's not just about X's and O's. It's not just about creating the perfect system. It's about being able to manage different egos and different personalities. That's a skill within itself. And like I said, I think that gets overlooked a lot when it comes to coaching. I think the best coaches, or the most well-rounded coaches, are the ones that can, coach any ego, manage with any ego. You think about guys like Phil Jackson. He had to manage the egos of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. And he was able to do it. You know what I mean? And the list goes on. Shaq and Kobe, those are different type personalities. So that's a skill in itself, and it does. And I don't think T. Lue gets enough credit for that. So credit to him. Keep that thing afloat. And I wish them success this season, and I think they will have a successful season. I think they're on the right path, and they'll continue to float under the radar, and they'll have a big season towards the end.
I don't think they could have made this trade without Ty Lue being their coach. And I think that 75% of the coaches in the league, and this is not a knock on the coaching in the NBA, but everyone has different skill sets. His particular skill set fit with this plan, right? And I asked Steve Kerr about Ty Lue a few weeks ago because, of course, Ty was with him on Team USA this past summer. And he said that, he always knew how good Ty Lue was. It's not like it's a surprise. These guys coach against each other. But he said just seeing him interrelate to the players and how he talked to the players was so interesting for Steve. And Steve has got great rapport with his players too. I mean, these are two coaches that are players' coaches. But he said the way Ty does it was so fascinating, and he's just loose with his attitude, but he says everything with purpose, and that combination is really gets through to guys. And then the other side of it, I think there's a temptation with a guy who is a former player and who has such a good rapport with players, and you can see it, to just sort of, when he was at the Cavs, there was a lot of like, oh, well, he knows how to handle LeBron, and that's why they're winning, or that's why he's a good coach. He's a fucking good X and O coach. Like, his out of timeout plays are always exceptional. Like, I don't think he sometimes gets enough credit for that. And that the schemes and stuff that he runs, like, I think sometimes because he's so good with the personalities, it overshadows, what a good technical basketball coach he is. So for all those reasons, mixing these four guys technically on the floor and how you put them and where you put them, and then also the player relation aspect, to me is a big reason why they're succeeding. And then of course, Russell Westbrook, look, the story that was put out was that he asked to go to the bench for the good of the team. Did he? I don't know. Did someone have a conversation with him and then decide to spare his ego? They would put that story out. We'll never know. But the fact that he's done it, and he's done it
Right.
with, good form, and he hasn't been a problem. You and I are both talked, we're big fans of Russell Westbrook and the way he is a teammate. And I think we've seen that again too. So I love what they're doing over there. I agree with you about the under the radar thing being good, because the more pressure and attention, the more people ask Russ, so why are you going to the bench? What do you think about being on the bench? Like all that stuff can inflame issues. And the fact that they're just humming right now, I don't know.
Right.
I think they're a super fascinating team. I can't wait to see what they can do in the playoffs. And everyone's got to stay healthy, but so far that's happened. All right, we got to get to the big games this week. Set a reminder, Boogie. Which game are you going to make sure is on your calendar? On Wednesday, we've got Wolves at Sixers. We've also got Clippers at Mavericks. That's going to be a good one. We're just talking about how good these teams are, and the Luka Clippers rivalry is always fun to see. Thursday, we got Clippers at Thunder.
Absolutely.
That's always interesting considering the trade that happened with those teams. Lakers at Wolves also on Thursday. And Minnesota Timberwolves, speaking of under the radar, I mean, they are cruising right now.
Yes.
They still have the number one defense in the league. All the parts that weren't working last year with Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, and Ant has just ascended even more. So I think that game is going to be fascinating. You've got Celtics at Clippers on Saturday. You've also got Lakers at Thunder on Saturday. And we'll get to the Christmas Day games when we talk for next week. But for that week, for these games, which game are you most interested in?
I'm looking forward to Wednesday. Obviously with the big man matchup between Embiid and Gobert and Cat, I think that'll be really entertaining. We'll get to see if Embiid can continue to dominate against the number one defense in the league, anchored by another big and Rudy Gobert. So that'll be a great matchup. Old school basketball, two bigs going at it, and obviously that Clippers and Mavericks game. Their rivalry stems deep from the past. And this Clipper team is now in a rhythm, so it'll be good to see them against another, playoff caliber team and just see how they match up with that. And we're gonna be able to see if their defense can match up with, a high powered offense led by Luka. So I think that'll be a great matchup as well. So Wednesday night definitely has got my attention.
And look, Embiid has like a little mini beef with I think every other big man in the league, but he's definitely got a little one with
I
Rudy
love it.
Gobert. There's some history there, so
I
I
love
think that'll be fun.
it.
Also, all right, DraftKings segment. I'll take that bet. We're going to talk about the Warriors playoffs. So the odds for the Warriors to make the playoffs right now: yes at plus 135, no at minus 170. Golden State currently 11th in the West. They have a 12-14 record, and by the way, we just talked about Draymond, probably going to be out for the next 10 games, so we can't expect them to just take off. Klay Thompson, the last 3 games, definitely his level of play is gone up, 27 points per game on 54% three-point shooting, so that's better. He was in such a slump at the start of the season. Draymond Green, as we said, not going to be there. Andrew Wiggins now coming off the bench, which I thought was an interesting move. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how much that tweak helps in Draymond's absence. So I don't know. What do you think? Are you taking the bet that the Warriors are going to make the playoffs, or you think they're not getting in?
I mean, it's hard to ever count this team out just because of their history and their DNA and just a decade worth of time when it comes to their chemistry. Like this is a team that can literally hit the switch and turn it on. It's hard to sit here and say they won't make the playoffs because they're not playing their best basketball right now. They are missing a vital piece in Draymond Green, and we don't know how long he'll be absent. Wiggins is in a slump. It's it it's hard for me to ever go against this team. Will they make the playoffs? I think they will. I think Klay
You're
Thompson
taking the
finds
bet.
his rhythm, I'm taking the bet. Klay Thompson is finding his rhythm. You get him shooting anywhere close to what he's accustomed to doing, they're a dangerous team. Steph Curry will continue to be Steph Curry. My hope is that this team makes a move. They make a move that can get this team over the hump. They have to get another scorer on this team to complement these guys. I think they dropped the ball with the Jordan Poole move. My opinion, I think I'd rather have sat those two down and like, hey, y'all need to figure this shit out.
Just work it out.
You know, we have championship aspirations. Y'all need to figure this shit out so we can move forward. I think they settled with what they did with the Jordan Poole move. I don't think they got the best piece back to help improve this team or even just keep them afloat or keep them at the same level. But you know, that's done. And but at the end of the day, it's hard for me to ever say this team isn't a threat because they always will be. As long as Steph Curry is leading this team, as long as Klay Thompson is backing him up, and Draymond being the anchor defensively and the voice of the team, I think they always have a chance. It's just about, you know, making the right move, moving forward, and filling out those, you know, those key pieces to keeping this team afloat and moving forward.
I mean, look, they don't have that many tradable assets just because, you know, they have a lot of guys who are kind of at a low point of their play right now, and contract-wise and everything else. Chris Paul could get moved again. Andrew Wiggins could get moved, but again, like, he's not playing well. So what are you getting back for him is complicated. On the other hand, you've got Klay on an expiring deal. I mean, you could deal him, but I think that would mess with their chemistry so much in the middle of the season.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting side bet, though, Boogie, because at the beginning of next season, are we going to see this exact same core still on the Warriors? Are they going to re-sign Klay? Klay would have to take a pretty big discount for them to fit all the pieces together. Is Klay Thompson going to be there at the beginning of next season? Is Draymond going to be there? They just signed him to a 4-year very expensive deal, but maybe they decide over the summer it's not worth it anymore. They try to, you know, some team is going to want him. So I don't know. Do you think that they'll be there? Do you think Steve Kerr will be there? What do you think? Who's going to be there and who's missing? What's your side bet on that at the beginning of next season?
I think it depends on how this season plays out. I think they'll finish the season with these guys just to, you know, see if they do still have that push to make, you know, title runs. If it is just a situation where, you know, are these the correct pieces to move forward, or should we start, you know, our rebuilding process? I know one guy that will be there. It'll be Steph Curry, regardless if they're playing for championships or rebuilding. He will be there. It's hard to determine if they can figure the contract situation out with Klay Thompson because, you know, obviously the one they offered is, you know, it's laughable. With what this guy's brought to this team, you know, the championships, the increase of value when it comes to this team, like all of these things play a part in that, and Klay Thompson was a part of that. So to sit there and then offer, you know, just a bullshit deal to a future Hall of Famer, a guy that's a big part of why this team is, you know, as prestigious as it is now, like it's laughable. So that's something they definitely have to figure out. And you know, I'm with Klay Thompson. You deserve what you deserve, bro. And I hope you get yours.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's difficult just because of all the other contracts they've gotten themselves into and making those pieces fit. But I don't think Steph Curry is going through a rebuilding session. I don't think he's interested in that at all. You know,
That
he
may
said
be
he
true.
wants to play until he's like 37, 38. I asked him about that. He was like, my dad played until he was 38. I want to play, you know, that long. And he's interested in winning another title. And I don't think that with him being the core of that team, if management sat him down and said, are you good with this? I don't think the answer would be yes of a rebuild. I don't think he'd be in for that. So the question is sort of how do they manage what they have while adding pieces, as you said. It's going to be interesting. The Klay Thompson situation, I'm fascinated by the way this is going to work out. But you're right, man. He's been such a big part of what they do, you know, so tied to Steph. You know, the way movement works with that team requires Klay, you know, to be there and to be just that catch and shoot guy. So it's going to be interesting. But all right, Boogie Cousins taking the bet. The Warriors are going to make the playoffs. You also think the Grizzlies are making the playoffs. So some of these teams are getting knocked out in Boogie World, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. I know a team that is not making the playoffs, and they lead off play-in. I know a team that is not making the play-in either. This is part of our doom scroll segment for the week. We check the internet, so you won't have to. Detroit, Boogie Cousins has lost 23 in a row. 23. I mean, you were on some bad Kings teams, but your longest losing streak was 8. I mean, what the hell, man? How do you lose 23 games in a row?
I mean, that's tough. That's really, really tough. You're asking me how? I have no clue. I don't relate to this in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's a tough situation to be in. But this is the NBA. It's hard to win games in the NBA. Detroit's a young team.
It's
They're
not
full of
23
youth.
games in
They're
a row
figuring it
hard.
out.
They have a good
Obviously,
coach
it
in Monty
is.
Williams. Something
Obviously,
is wrong.
it is.
And
Yeah. I'm not.
it's not good.
I wish I had the answer to this. I just don't. But to their defense, they are a young team. They are still figuring out things. They're trying to find their identity. I think they got one piece right so far. Well, more than one piece right, but as of, the coaching, I think Monty Williams is a great coach for that team. I think he's a great motivator. I think he'll get these guys' mind in the right space to, becoming a winning team and winning players. Cade Cunningham is an incredible
Just winning one
talent.
game, Boogie. One game. That's all anyone's asking.
Yeah.
They don't need a winning
right.
mentality or to get right. They need to win one game.
Yeah, hey, man, win a game, man. You heard Rachel. Go
win a game.
Go win a fucking game.
Win a game. Win a game. Just give us that. I want to look at a few highlights that social media has given us. This one is crazy. Have you seen this picture? Giannis had his kids on the bench while the Bucks were blowing out the Pistons during the game. This is insane. I've never seen this before.
He clocked into daddy mode early.
I mean, how insulting? How would you feel?
In another job.
How would you feel if you looked across the court and one of the guys had his kids on the bench? That's wrong. That's wrong. Also, this one that Draymond Green has more ejections than the Pistons have wins. That's a sad stat on both sides, actually. So don't like that one.
Yeah.
And then even Wingstop had a little fun with the Pistons. So usually they give out 5 free wings if the Pistons win, right? That has been their promotion, right? All the arenas have one of these promotions, 2 free throws, blah, blah, blah. The Pistons had the Wingstop promo. We'll give out 5 wings to you if the Pistons win. And instead, Wingstop tweeted, we could do 5 free wings for every loss because you guys need to win. And they deserve a win. So even if they lose, they want to give people wings. So there's something there for Pistons fans. This is sad. 1 win. 1 win. Well, let's start baby steps. 1 win.
Man,
there we go. This is what I want to see from this week before we reconvene for our Christmas podcast. But yeah, I want to see 1 win from the Pistons.
I want to know what the betting line is for that 1 win.
Dude, right? We got to get DraftKings on that. I don't know if they have odds
for
that.
Everything
we got to get DraftKings on that. So 1 win. That's all you got to do. 1 win. I know you guys got it in you. Let's go. Things are so bad. The Hawks are 12.5-point favorites to win the game tonight. So yeah, 1 win, just 1. Don't think it's going to come tonight. Maybe it will. 1 win. All right. You can catch all episodes of Bully Ball on the Showtime Basketball YouTube channel. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. If you had fun today with us, please rate and review us. We need those 5 stars to help us get us. We're a new podcast. We got to get up in that algorithm. So hit that 5-star button. We will see you next week. We will preview all the Christmas Day games. I'm very excited about that. Until then, see you soon, Bug.
Peace.